Throughout the history of the Overwatch League, the main tank has been one of the most important roles in the game. Tanks tend to be what makes a team work, and their leadership helps keep these teams together. Whether it be huge earth shatters, crazy primals, or huge slams on the wrecking ball, main tanks truly have a serious impact on the game. Today, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 main tanks in Overwatch history. An important note to make is that this list is my opinion, so if you disagree, feel free to leave your own list in the comment section below. This list will probably change over time, and I doubt it will hold up in the future, but as of right now, I believe that these are the top 5 main tanks of all time. Coming up with the number 5 choice was a really hard decision. There were 2 tanks that I really think are very close, and I had a lot of trouble picking between them. These 2 tanks are Fate and Guxue. Both of these players have had insane careers, and are some of the most decorated main tanks in the world. However, I had to make a choice, and the choice I made for the number 5 best main tank in the world is Guxue. In Season 3 and 4, Fate was an insanely good main tank, and even ended up winning the 2021 season. However, other than those 2 seasons, Fate's play was more or less lackluster. After his 2021 championship year, Fate fell off pretty hard, and was more or less relegated to like a bottom 10 main tank in future seasons. It is undeniable that he was great in Season 4, but I've tended to think of him as one of the weaker members of the 2021 Shanghai Dragons. No disrespect to Fate or anything, I think he's a fantastic main tank, but I just can't give him the number 5 spot. Guxue, on the other hand, I think there's more of an argument for. Guxue started his career on the 2019 Hangzhou Spark, and had a really good season, carrying that team to a top 4 finish, and even having such good primals that they got nicknamed the Primal Blade. The real blemish on Guxue's career really came in the following 2 seasons. The 2020 and 2021 Hangzhou Spark were really not the best team. However, it was by no means a Guxue problem, and he usually looked like one of the best players on his team. However, Overwatch 2 is when he really took the stage. In 2022, the Hangzhou Spark looked really good, and Guxue showed his dominance. His Winston was still fantastic, however, the Hangzhou Spark fell off a little bit in the year, which was coincidentally when Winston fell out of favor, which caused a lot of people to call Guxue a Winston one-trick. In the playoffs, when Winston became playable again, suddenly the Hangzhou Spark did really well, and it really seemed to back people into this narrative. However, 2023 is when that narrative would soon disappear. The 2023 Hangzhou Spark made some serious upgrades, and they really looked to be a super great team. However, the biggest difference this year was that although 20 played on the team, Guxue was basically solo tanking the whole year, and it was a pretty tall ask for him. However, Guxue stepped up to the plate, showing us some fantastic performances on his Winston, and also his Doomfist, Orisa, and Rein. Throughout the season, the Hangzhou Spark didn't really win anything, but they had a really good playoff performance, coming 3rd, as well as beating the Atlanta Reign, which still hurts my heart to this day. In the World Cup later that year, Guxue did some insane work, making it all the way to the top 2 teams and being one of the best tanks in the world, showing his flexibility and that he truly is a fantastic main tank. Although Fate is long gone, as a player, Guxue is still continuing his playing career, and I look forward to seeing what else he can do. However, although they're in very close comparison, the main thing that would normally hold Guxue back is that he just doesn't have any titles or any wins, unlike Fate, who not only has a championship but several stage wins. However, I still think that Guxue is a better player, but it's pretty close. Feel free to let me know who you think is better between Guxue and Fate in the comment section below. Moving on to the number 4 spot, we have Someone. Someone's career may have been relatively short so far, but he still has had a fantastic last few years. Setting the stage on the 2022 Florida Mayhem, Someone demonstrated his insane flexibility and his ability to play almost every tank to an adequate level. The Mayhem were a pretty alright team, and Someone was clearly the MVP of the Florida Mayhem that year. However, in 2023, the team around him grew way stronger. Checkmate was a consistent beast, Mare's hitscan was top tier, RuPaul was insanely good, and Chorong was one of the best mate supports in the world. The thing that rounded out this team though was Someone. Someone was arguably one of 2 tanks, himself and Smurf, who are flexible enough to play almost every tank hero on the roster. This guy could pretty much blow any tank hero he wanted, and could play it in a top 5 level. Of course, even though he had this consistency and flexibility, he was still an insane main tank player too. His Winston, Orisa, and Reinhardt gameplay was incredible, and it was top tier in the league. And, if he really wanted to, he could break up characters like Zarya, Junker Queen, or even Ramatra, all with ease. In 2023, Someone won the MVP race in a very close race against Lip. The Florida Mayhem won the championship that year, and someone was a very large part of it. Never having to worry about your team's tank flexibility is an insane asset that allows his team to focus on everyone else rather than someone, since you know that he's going to hold it down. After the Overwatch League went away, someone has moved over to the Toronto Defiant, where he still looks to be one of the best tanks, and is the best tank in North America. However, the team did not perform the best at Dallas DreamHack, so I'm looking forward to see how much someone does in the future, and whether or not he can hold up his reputation as being one of the best tanks. At the number 3 position, I have Super. The 5'2", 120-pound gaming warlord truly left a mark on the esport as a whole, and is arguably one of the best players in the game. Joining the league on the 2018 San Francisco Shock, he was a very hyped-up 18-year-old rookie, who really didn't get a chance to shine until the 2019 season, when GOATS came around. During GOATS, Super was the undisputed best Reinhardt in the whole world, making plays that really no one else could keep up with. Super led his team to 3 stage final appearances as well as the Golden Stage, and won the championship later that year. Super's consistent Rein play and general flexibility allowed him to be a fantastic asset for the San Francisco Shock, and in 2020 he did more of the same. However, he was on a bench for a majority of that season. When he was called into play, however, Super played extremely well, allowing the San Francisco Shock to have an insanely reliable 3-man tank lineup. In 2021, the San Francisco Shock were a bit of a mess. However, Super was one of the most consistent parts of the team, and still managed to lead his team to some very good games, as well as placing 4th in the playoffs. Super retired later that year, right before the 2022 season, where he focused more on his insanely successful streaming career. Super has shown throughout the years that his incredible flexibility and his ability to lead games with his communication skills, as well as his raw presence in the game. Although his actual mechanics may not be as good as some of the other tanks like Someone, his accolades and leadership are something that cannot be overstated. Coming in at the number 2 spot, I have Fearless. Fearless has been one of the best tank players and one of the best players in the world for the last couple of years. Originally known for his time on the 2018 Shanghai Dragons, his team did not win a single game. Fearless, alongside d.va, Guxue, and several others on this team, looked pretty okay, and people assumed that if they got off of this nightmare of a team, they might have some serious potential. After this terrible year in Shanghai, Fearless went back to Contenders, where he dominated and showed that he really did deserve to be in the Overwatch League. And, in 2020, he got signed back to the Shanghai Dragons in a very surprising move. That year, Fearless and the Shanghai Dragons would dominate the Asia region, winning 2 stages and making it to all 3 of the stage finals. Fearless was arguably one of the best tanks in the entire world, showing everybody that he really did deserve to be here. His Winston mechanics were insane, and his Reinhardt and Orisa were also pretty good. After 2020, he was traded over to the Dallas Fuel, where he would join Hanbin in one of the best tank lineups ever created in Overwatch history. This Dallas Fuel team would not only win a stage, but also make it to another stage final, as well as placing 3rd at the end of the year, and Fearless was one of the main factors that made this team so special. He and Hanbin had some insane synergy, and his raw mechanics had grown so much over the past few years. People were eager to see what he could do, and although he didn't win in 2021, 2022 was his big chance, and the Dallas Fuel looked like a top-tier team. Now, they had a hit-scan player with Edison, as well as Chio, who was an upgrade on main support. The Dallas Fuel really looked like a very scary team, and a scary team they were. The Dallas Fuel were one of the top teams throughout the entire year, even winning in the Jotes meta. However, Fearless was not a part of that win, and a lot of people were worried that Fearless had fallen off. So when the meta in the playoffs was Winston-centric, a lot of people were very worried about the Dallas Fuel. However, Fearless quickly put those worries to bed, as he dominated in the playoffs, showing he really is one of the best main tanks of all time, and he brought the Dallas Fuel to their first and only ever championship win. In 2023, Fearless moved over to the Houston Outlaws, basically solo tanking for a good majority of the year until they finally got Bernard, and he was one of the best players in the world. His Winston was top-notch all year, and he managed to obtain 2 more second-place finishes before finally retiring at the end of Overwatch League. Throughout the years, Fearless has truly demonstrated his dominance of how incredible of a player he is, and I really wish he hadn't retired so soon, so we could really see what he's capable of in OWCS. My honorable mentions are going to go to Fate, Hottie, Mono, Among, Jester, Gator, Mag, and Junbin. Mono, Gator, Jester, and Among were all very good at the time that they played, but don't have the longevity to get on this list. Hottie and Mag are both fantastic, and currently still are fantastic. However, I just don't quite think they're as good as Guxue or Fate. Junbin missed a cut due to his lack of playtime, and we just haven't seen him for that long, as well as the fact that his shot gear was certainly a blemish on his career. All of these players have been fantastic, but I honestly don't think that they can beat Guxue or Fate to make top 5. Finally, at the number 1 spot, I have Smurf. I mean, how can you go wrong with this guy? Smurf has dominated the Overwatch esports scene for years, being one of the most flexible and winningest players of all time. Starting out on the 2019 San Francisco Shock, Smurf actually didn't really play a lot, as Goats was the dominant meta at the time, and Super tended to have the stage more than him. However, once Goats was gone, Smurf got to show his dominance and show just how good he really is, leading the San Francisco Shock to win the 2019 playoffs. Smurf completed one of the best tank lines of all time, Smurf, Super, and Choi Hyobin, and continued his dominance into the 2020 season, where the San Francisco Shock, as mentioned earlier, would win 2 stages and also win a second Grand Finals in a row. Smurf's main tank play, whether it be on the Winston, Orisa, or Reinhardt, were all fantastic, and he was truly one of the best tanks that whole year. In 2021, the San Francisco Shock had a bit of a fall-off, but were by no means a bad team, placing 4th overall, and a big part of the Shock's success was the tank lineup, Smurf, Super, and Choi. Smurf finished out the Overwatch 1 era by already being one of the greats, but he wasn't done yet. Moving into the Overwatch 2 era, Smurf joined the Seoul Dynasty, where he immediately made an impact, being one of only 2 tanks in the entire league who were flexible enough to play every single tank in the game. Smurf helped bring the Seoul Dynasty to their first ever stage win, as well as giving them a very competitive season, and he was easily one of the best tanks in the APAC region, and debatably the entire league. However, the Dynasty didn't exactly finish strong, but Smurf was still determined, and he moved over to the Boston Uprising in the 2023 season, where again he would play very well and get a top 4 finish in both tournaments that year. In the Overwatch League, Smurf was always on top, always placing in the top tier of every tournament he played in, not just being one of the best tanks of all time, but being one of the best players of all time. After the Overwatch League ended, Smurf moved over with the Hamster crew on Team Falcons. After the Overwatch League ended, Smurf moved over to join the Hamster crew on Team Falcons, where he would be the primary tank player for his team, which was now ranked 2nd in the world, only being beaten by Crazy Raccoon, which was still a very close match, and I think either team could have won. Smurf had some incredible plays so far in OWCS, and was almost able to beat every other team in Korea, and absolutely dominated all the other teams in the West with relative ease, showing that he truly is one of the best after all these years. Being able to keep yourself on top after so many years have gone by is truly an incredible feat that not many players can do. Almost every player who dominated in the early stages of the league have either fallen off, or they retired, but Smurf continues to play and continues to dominate, being one of the best to ever do it. That's why, in my opinion, Smurf is the best main tank in Overwatch history. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm really curious to hear what your list would look like, so please feel free to leave them in the comment section below in a respectful manner. Remember, this list is my opinion, and other people can have different opinions, so I'd really like to hear yours. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. I'll be releasing a lot more Overwatch esports content soon. I've got a video on the Dallas DreamHack tournament in the works, so please stay tuned. Thank you all so much for the support I've had recently. It really means a lot to me. Thank you all so much for watching.